He moved through every room as if he owned it, not by force but by charm. His laughter rose above the crowd, smooth and easy, drawing others into its orbit. He had a way of knowing just enough about a person to make them feel seen, special, as though their friendship with him was unique. At dinners, he was the one filling glasses, telling stories that stitched the group together. At parties, he floated seamlessly from one circle to the next, gathering secrets with the same casual grace as he collected phone numbers and favors. No one ever noticed how quickly he turned conversations back on others, how little he actually revealed of himself. What he gave instead was attention, carefully rationed, deliberately placed, and always calculated to yield something in return. He built his reputation on the illusion of loyalty, of being the friend everyone could trust. When one of them stumbled, he was the first to arrive with a sympathetic ear. When another succeeded, he was there with congratulations, a hand on the shoulder, a smile that seemed genuine. Behind closed doors, however, his words shifted like coins in a pocket. The struggles someone confided to him became stories he passed along in whispers, twisted into weaknesses. The victories others celebrated became threats he quietly undermined, suggesting to the right ears that perhaps their achievements weren't entirely earned. To one friend, he was a confidant. To another, he was a supporter. To all of them, he was indispensable. And yet, each kindness he offered was laced with a hidden blade, each favor a step toward tightening his hold. He was careful, methodical. He never let his betrayals bleed too close together. When one friend found themselves suddenly isolated, doubting why others had turned cold, he was there to console them, promising he didn't understand either. When another's plans collapsed because of rumors he had seeded, he offered advice, insisting he only wanted what was best. And so the cycle turned. He wounded, he soothed, he tightened his grip. The strange part was that people kept coming back to him, even when the cracks began to show. There was something magnetic in the way he could make someone feel chosen, even if only for a moment. The more they needed him, the more he thrived. His social circle grew dense with people who whispered about betrayals, yet still sought his approval. Everyone suspected, but no one could name him outright. He had woven himself too tightly into their lives, a thread connecting them all, a thread they feared to cut lest the whole fabric unravel. In the end, his empire of friendships was less about companionship than control. He was not their best friend, though that was how each of them privately thought of him. He was their mirror, their echo, their carefully constructed illusion of trust. And when the truth finally surfaced, when enough stories aligned to expose the pattern, it was too late. He had already moved on, already found new faces, new circles eager for someone just like him. And in another room, filled with laughter and glasses clinking, he was already beginning again. Everyone's best friend and no one's. He was the kind of man who seemed to belong to everyone. At a dinner table, he was the one who pulled out chairs, poured wine, and asked the right questions. At late-night gatherings, he was the one laughing the loudest, shoulders brushing against those of his closest companions as though he were their brother. He had a way of remembering small details, the kind of things people said in passing but never expected to be remembered: birthdays, childhood stories, favorite songs. It made him irreplaceable, the friend everyone swore they could trust more than anyone else. But what none of them realized was that every memory he tucked away was not for safekeeping, but for leverage. He collected people the way others collected coins, polished on the surface, cataloged carefully, and stored away until their value could be extracted. With Daniel, he played the loyal confidant. Daniel had dreams of starting his own business, but doubts gnawed at him. Over quiet drinks, he confessed them, his fears about money, about failure, about not being enough. His friend nodded, assured him, promised support. A week later, that same confession made its way to Clara, dressed up as idle concern. Daniel's not sure he can pull it off. Maybe it's better you don't invest with him just yet. By the time Daniel tried to raise funds, half the circle had already been poisoned with doubt. He failed, and when he came to his friend for comfort, he was welcomed with open arms. "I warned them, but they wouldn't listen," he said, as though he hadn't been the one to scatter the seeds of mistrust. With Clara, he was the protector. She had a new relationship, one she was excited about, one she shared in hushed tones and glowing words. He listened, smiled, and congratulated her. Later, he leaned toward another friend, voice lowered, carrying just enough weight to sound reluctant. "I'm happy for her, of course, but don't you think he's a little off? I heard he's been talking to someone else on the side." The rumor spread, fragile but poisonous, until Clara's new happiness crumbled into suspicion. When she cried, he was there, handkerchief in hand, the one steady shoulder she thought she could lean on. With Marcus, it was different. Marcus had always been the loud one, the leader of the group, the one people naturally followed. That wouldn't do. So he chipped away quietly, framing Marcus as arrogant, self-centered, dismissive of others. A joke Marcus had told became an insult in his retelling. A confident remark became a sign of condescension. Slowly, subtly, Marcus found himself edged out of decisions, the group's loyalty shifting without him ever knowing why. When Marcus finally confronted him, the man only smiled, shook his head, and asked why he would ever want to undermine his best friend. What made him dangerous was not that he betrayed once, or even twice. It was that he betrayed all of them, constantly, endlessly, while still convincing each of them that he was the only one they could rely on. He was their safety net and their executioner, their comfort and their undoing. They never compared notes because he had made sure they trusted him more than one another. But lies have a way of piling up, and he was not perfect. The day came when Clara and Daniel spoke. Daniel about his failed business, Clara about her broken relationship, and both realized the same shadow lingered over their stories. Marcus, bitter but sharp, put the final pieces together. The circle began to unravel, one thread at a time, until all of them saw what he was. And yet, by the time the truth was undeniable, he was already gone. He had packed his charm, his easy smile, and his arsenal of secrets, and slipped into a new circle, one where no one knew the damage he could do. And in that new circle, he laughed the loudest again, remembered birthdays again, poured drinks again, already beginning the cycle anew. He thrived in repetition, as if his life were built on a script he knew by heart. In every new circle, the stage was set the same way: charm at the entrance, attention as currency, betrayal as strategy. The pattern never changed, only the faces. And for a while, no one ever saw it coming. In one city, he was the faithful study partner who accidentally let slip the mistakes others made on exams, quietly pushing himself forward while others faltered. In another, he was the neighbor who always showed up with a smile and a favor, yet told landlords and bosses little things about the people next door, small truths twisted into knives. Each time, he walked away unscathed, shoulders squared, a new set of friends orbiting around him. But habits leave traces. His words began to overlap, stories colliding. He forgot which lie he told to which ear, and in those small cracks, suspicion grew. Clara's replacement, a woman named Elise, once heard him dismissively retell a story she had shared with tears in her eyes. Her stomach turned, though she said nothing then. Daniel's replacement, a man named Oliver, noticed how every time something went wrong, their supposed best friend was somehow untouched, always on the edge of the wreckage, but never inside it. And Marcus's replacement, a quiet, observant man named Jonah, watched the way conversations tilted, how confidences became common knowledge without anyone admitting they'd spoken. Jonah was the first to test him. He invented a secret, something harmless but convincing, that he was planning to move abroad. He told it in confidence, watching carefully. Within a week, strangers were asking Jonah about his supposed departure, and he knew. Jonah didn't confront him. Instead, he began to stitch the circle together, quietly, carefully, whispering to Elise, to Oliver, and to the others. They compared stories. Each betrayal lined up like beads on a string, and the picture finally became clear. Their best friend, their confidant, was the saboteur. It wasn't rage that undid him. It was silence. One by one, his friends stopped calling. Invitations that once flowed easily dried up. At gatherings, his jokes landed flat, his laughter rang hollow. The warmth he relied on, the easy trust he manipulated, was gone. And for the first time, he felt the chill of being outside the circle. He tried to recover, tried to charm, but suspicion clung to him like a shadow. Every word he spoke was doubted. Every gesture weighed. He wasn't thrown out violently. He was simply erased, left to watch from the edges as they grew closer without him. But men like him rarely learn. He packed his charm again, polished his smile, and slipped away into another crowd. Somewhere new, he would laugh louder, listen closer, weave himself tighter into the lives of others. The cycle would continue until it didn't. Because each time he fled, the cracks followed him. Each betrayal left echoes, and echoes have a way of catching up. Somewhere, someday, he would stumble into a circle less forgiving, one willing not just to exile him but to break him. And perhaps, in the quiet moments between circles, he already knew it was coming. Perhaps that was why he moved so quickly, why he never stayed in one place too long. Not out of boredom, not even out of hunger, but out of fear. Fear that the last circle he betrayed might still be watching.